Welcome to Yogaroo Online. And in this practice, what we're going to focus on is hip mobility. So as usual, it's all about your range of movement and what feels good for you. And for this one in particular with hips, I'd like you to kind of focus more on a lovely fluid range of movement rather than your kind of perceived widest or what you should be able to do in your range of movement. So get a lovely juicy flow in the joint rather than going to the end range within the circle or whichever pose we are taking. Okay, so I mean, even explore, you could set yourself a challenge today to explore the idea of staying at, like, you know, very much 80% of where you know you can go within a pose. So say you're in warrior, you lift the hips up a little bit further rather than dipping down, and you go to kind of, you know, higher or less than you kind of are familiar with where you know you can go, and then really feel for the kind of the sensation within this hip joint that we're looking at. So the ball and socket, big ball and socket joint, just there at the top of our femur, and the hip bone, the lovely huge big circular cup that sits within the pelvis there, that the femur sits into. So it's really quite a secure joint. It's got a good range of movement, not quite as much as the shoulder, but the shoulder is quite a narrow, or not a narrow, a shallow joint. And we'll look at that on another week. So let's get started. And we're going to start on all fours. Okay, so as usual, we'll start with our cat-cows. But for this one, I really want you to focus on the hip movement. So of course, the spine will move, the neck will move, but really exploring and using this very simple and very familiar two poses to get you to really focus on what the sensations feels like in this joint, so that you can tap into it later into your class. So inhale, the belly softens down towards the ground, the gaze comes slightly forward. Feel the whole pelvis, that beautiful bony structure tilting forward there on the top of those femur bones. And then exhale, lifting the spine up towards the ceiling, and feel the pelvis, this bowl, lifting up and back. So feel it's almost like you're spilling the pelvis forward and out, like you're tipping the water bowl forward and the water flows out. And then you're exhaling to lift the pelvis up. So you're retaining the fluid in the bowl and lifting it up. Okay, so just think of it as this lovely bowl of water tilting forward and back, and just doing another few rounds in your breath, tilting forward and lifting up and back. And again, noticing the relationship between this movement, this big bony structure, and, you know, the top of the femur bones, top of the hip bones there, and the spine. So like when one moves, the other moves, and how the body is all intrinsically linked in its flowing movement. And then just coming back to tabletop position, bring the knees a little bit closer together here, fingertips spread nice and wide for balance. Lift your right leg. I'm going to mirror you, so I'm going to do my left leg. Lift your right leg out to the side, squeeze into the back of that hip there now, flex the foot, and try and see, can you keep the pelvis reasonably squared there to your mat. And then exhale, you're going to pivot the leg around and press the heel up towards the ceiling. Okay, so that's our flow, and we're going to go through it a few times now. So you're going to inhale, reach the pelvis or reach the knee out to the side there. Inhale, lift, squeeze into the back of the hip there, so that buttocks muscle, and then exhale, press the foot up towards the ceiling. And one more time, inhale, flow that knee out to the side, squeeze into the back of that hip, and then exhale, press the foot up towards the ceiling. And then bring your right leg down now. So now you know what you're doing. I better equal myself up. So I'm going to do my right leg. You're going to do your left leg now. So inhale, Bring the left leg out to the side. I'm trying to keep those two pointy hip bones squared to the front or to the mat there. And then exhale, pivot the knee down towards the ground and then lift it up as you press the foot up towards the ceiling. Squeeze into the back of that glute there. And notice which parts of the back of your hips are working in those two different movements. So let's go on an inhale again. We're reaching the knee out the side, and you certainly feel more external hip kind of rotation and a bit of more effort in the outside of the hip there. And then your exhale, you press your foot up towards the ceiling and you feel the back of the whole hip there. So your buttocks muscle firing and working there. And then one more round. Inhale, knee out to the side, squeeze into the outside back of the hip there. And exhale, press the foot up towards the ceiling and feel the whole back of the hip working there. Then bring that knee down again. Okay, again, I'm going to demo on the left side and you're going to lift your right leg. So this one, we're just going to do the same lift out to the side. We're going to inhale, lift the leg out to the side, and then exhale, we're going to keep it nice and high as you rotate it, then bring it down and just tap it to the outside of your left leg. You can tap or you can just press the hips back a little bit if you want to get a bit of a stretch into the back of the hips there. Okay, so that's your movement. You're going to inhale, lift it out to the side, keep the foot flexed, and exhale. Now try and keep it lifted high, 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 high as you rotate the knee around and back, and then bring it down to tap to the outside of the left knee there. Press the hips back a little bit. Feel the nice stretch there in the back of the hips. One more time, inhale, lift that knee out to the side, squeeze into the back of that hip, and then exhale, keep it high as you can. It doesn't have to look spectacular, just that idea of the knee being as high as possible, then bring it down and tap to the outside of the left knee, press the hips back a little bit, feel the stretch. Okay, coming back to all fours again, knees close together, resettle, lengthen through the spine. I'm going to demo now on the right side. You're going to do your left side just to equal myself up. Inhale, lift the left leg up, flex the foot, flex the knee, squeeze the back of that hip, and then exhale. Keep it high, high as you can, high as you can. Think of that knee being high, forget about where the foot is, and then tap that foot to the outside of the right leg now. Press the hips back a little bit maybe. And then a second time round. Inhale, lift the leg out to the side, squeeze into the back of that hip there, and then exhale, lift it high, 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 and then tip that knee to the outside of the left leg there, or right leg there. Last round. Inhale, lift that left leg up, squeeze into the back of the hips there, keep it the knee high, and then tap down just to the outside of the right leg, press the hips back, squeeze and release, feel the stretch, and then come back to all fours again. Okay, and then for the next one, we are going to open the leg out to the side. So this one you're very familiar with if you've done fast with me before. You're going to pivot the right foot off the mat, so kind of either 45 degrees or kind of 90 degrees, just depends on the rotation of your hip there. Ground down into your right foot, and you're going to lift that left leg up and the left arm up. So this is your exhale, and then you're going to inhale back to all fours again, and we're going to come to the other side. So we're going to do 3 rounds of both sides. So I'll show you from the back view. We're going to pivot the left leg off the mat now. We're going to reach the right leg away and the right arm up. Flex the foot now, press the heel away, feel that good work in the back of that hip there now, and the side of the hip as well. And then inhale back to all fours again. Second side on the right. Inhale, pivot the inhale to all fours. Exhale, pivot the right foot off the mat. Reach left arm up, left leg away. Press through the heel. Inhale back to all fours. And exhale, pivot left leg off, right arm reaches, right leg reaches. Inhale, back to all fours. Exhale, last time, pivot right foot off. Exhale, left arm reaches, left leg reaches. Inhale, back to all fours. Last side, pivot left leg off. and right arm reaches, left leg reaches, back to all fours again. Just reach our, bring your legs forward there and your arms behind you. That didn't describe that one very well. Come to seated, it's an easier way to do it. We're just going to windscreen wipe the legs just to bring any little bits of tension out of our hips there. This is just a lovely one, and your knees can come down as far or keep them as high as you want, just depends what feels nice for you. You can keep it as a nice smooth movement. Really what you're doing is just you're kind of massaging the back of the hips there. So it's a lovely one to do if you've been working with your hips, and get them ready to move on to the next section of your movement. Okay, and then just bring the feet around to the back again, come to all fours, and we'll come into our standing flow. So come up onto the fingertips, coming up with caution, or not caution, but kind of consciousness, and learning ways to get up and down off your mat that you can kind of serve you all the way into your hundreds. So tuck the left toes under, lift the left knee up, step the left leg forward, bending down, bend the knees. Inhale, reach the arms up high, and exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, so we're working with the hips. What we're going to do, and I'll demo from the front of our mat maybe, and then I'll step to the side when we're coming to our standing flow. Hands to the hips here. You're going to lift your right leg up. So I'm not mirroring you. You're going to lift your right leg up. You're pressing down into your left leg. And we're going to rotate the leg back. Again, this whole idea of keeping that knee as high as feels good for you. Remembering my advice at the start of the class is that you're not quite moving in your 100% range of movement. It's this fluid, almost like spreading a knife through butter kind of feeling through the joint that you're looking for. So you're going to just circle the leg back and reach the knee back. So again, it's this idea of kind of almost forget about the bottom of the leg there, and it's the knee that we're rotating up and back. So lifting it up and reaching it back. And, you know, the bottom of the leg will kind of look after itself if you just keep the leg flexed, you know, working with all those wobbles and bringing yourself to stand by a wall or a shelf or something if you need a little bit of help. You're still getting all that work through the hip and the standing leg, even if you're holding on to something for support. You know, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of support from a prop beside you. Okay, and then on our third rotation of the hip there, you're going to bring it back and then gently bend the left knee there to step your way back into arrowhead. So we have our left leg forward now, and we're going to get to, we want to move to our right leg now. So we're going to inhale, reach the arms up high, step that right leg forward, and then step the left leg back, okay? And we're going to do a standing flow now with our right leg forward. So we're going to inhale, reach the arms up high and straighten that front leg. And then exhale, bring down the hands down the midline in prayer position and bend the front knee. We're going to flow through that 2 more times. So inhale, reach the arms up high. And then exhale, bending that front knee. And feeling this, so again, the focus is about the hips. So we're feeling this. Yes, the leg is working, but can you bring your attention to what's happening at the front of the hip there in the hip flexor, which is getting a lovely stretch the more we dip down towards the ground. Let's do 1 more of them. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Feel a little bit more space in the front of the hip flexor. And then exhale, bend that front leg. See, can you keep those 2 pointy hip bones reaching up and back, and maybe even bringing your hands to those 2 pointy hip bones and lifting them up and feeling an extra little bit of a stretch through the front of that hip flexor there. Okay, inhale, reach the arms up high. And then exhale, just bringing both hands to that front knee and stepping the left leg forward. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're now going to lift our left leg up and do our circles with our left leg. So I'm going to come to stand at the top of my mat again, lifting the left leg up, inhale here and exhale, keeping the knee as high as possible, and then reaching the leg back. So your end movement, you can keep that right knee bent there as well. It just can help to bring your center of gravity down. And then inhale to lift and exhale, reaching it back. So you can lean forward, just do whatever whatever the rest of the body needs to do to kind of keep you balanced. It's all about the hip and what's going on there. And you get extra little bits in building the muscles of the legs too, but really we're trying to focus on the hips. So the next time you find your leg back, we're going to step that left leg back and inhale, reach the arms up high. And then we're going to bring the hands to the hips, step that left leg forward and step the right leg back so we can do our standing flow with the left leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high, straighten that front leg. And exhale, bending that front leg. Seeing again, just clicking your attention back into those hips there, the front of the hips. What we're focusing on here is the front of that right hip flexor now. So that muscle that connects upper and lower body there, that gets quite tight from sitting all day. So let's continue to flow. Inhale, straightening that front leg. And exhale, gently bringing it down. And notice the point where you feel, an extra little bit of a stretch through the front of that hip there. And see, again, do you need to come up a little bit? And when you come up a bit, can you bring your fingertips to those front hip flexors and reach them up and back a little bit more? So sometimes coming down as low as you can is not the right solution for you. We'll do one more. Inhale, straighten that front leg. And then exhale, bending the knee. And inhale, lengthen. And exhale, bend. Bring both hands to that front knee there. And step that right leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high. And exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, our second round now. We're going to start by lifting the left leg so that we're on the right leg for our standing flow. So lifting the left leg, inhaling here, and exhale, reaching it back. And again, we're going to do 3 of these. So inhale, lift it forward, and exhale, lift it back. And a little bit of core work here as well. Lift the pelvic floor. You can use, even though we're focusing on the hip, you can use all the muscles surrounding the hip to help you with this movement here. They all work symbiotically. And then the next time we reach the leg back, you're going to step it back there now, reach the arms back, find your way into arrowhead. This is your exhale here. And then for our next one, we're going to inhale, reach the arms up high. One of my favorite movements for the hips here. Listen carefully now. You're going to ground that left foot, pivot the right foot kind of to a 45 degrees here. So it's like you're up on the ball of that left foot and shimmying through the hip there. And then you're going to bend both knees down. So you're coming from high lunge to goddess on the left side of your mat there. Okay, so let's try that a few times. We might do it more than 3 because this is a really lovely one for getting lovely range of movement and all that synovial fluid back into your hips. So pivot the feet around. Again, pivot the feet, but don't worry too much about the position of your feet in these ones because we're flowing. Okay, so pivot that right foot to the front of the mat again. Bend that right knee, reach the arms up high. Feel that stretch at the front of the hip flexor there. This is our inhale. Exhale, come up to the ball of that left foot, pivot the foot around, ground the heel of the left foot, and bring the hands down in prayer position into our goddess pose. Inhale, reach the arms up, pivot the feet around to the front of the mat, bend that right knee, coming into lunge. And then exhale, pivot the feet around, stay up high on the ball of the foot until you have that hip. So this is the lovely action for that hip there, and bring the knee or the heel down into goddess pose. And we'll do one more. Inhale, reach the arms up high, pivot that left hip all the way around to the front of the mat, reach the arms up. And then exhale, pivot up on the ball of the foot, pivot. So the whole knee is going from facing forward to facing almost to the back of your mat there as you find your way into goddess pose. Okay, and then coming forward to the front of your mat again, up into your high lunge. Bring the hands down onto your front knee there and step your left leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high, and exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, you stay where you are. I'm going to go back on that so I don't have my face back to you. And this time now we're going to be lifting the right leg up. So we want to end up with the left leg forward. So inhale, lift that right leg up. And then exhale, keeping the knee nice and high, a little bend in the left knee if you need it. Feed that right leg back. So squeeze into the back of that hip there. And then inhale, bring it forward. And then exhale back. Second round. Last round, inhale, reaching it forward and up, lift up. And then exhale, keeping the knee nice and high. Reach the knee back. Forget about what the leg is doing, but keep the foot flexed. And then gently bending that right or that left knee now. Bring the right ball of the foot down towards the ground. Reach the arms back. Lengthen through the whole spine here. Settle into your standing pose. Okay, same flow. Inhale, reach the arms up high. And then exhale, remembering again, staying high onto the ball of that right foot now. Pivot the whole knee. So maybe even have a bend in the right knee so you can see the direction of it. And you can see from me, the whole knee goes from facing forward. I'm up on the ball of the foot. It's pivoting to face to the back almost of the mat. And I find my way into goddess pose. So it's coming from forward to back, which is a lovely rotation for the hip there. And then coming forward again, we'll do 4 rounds, something similar to what we did on the other side. A high lunge, right foot reaches, right foot pivots forward. And then exhale, coming up high onto the ball, that foot pivot the whole hip and coming into our goddess, hands in prayer position. And we'll do 2 more. Inhale into our high lunge and exhale, whole hip reaches round and coming into our goddess. And last time, inhale, reach the arms forward and up. And then exhale, pivot the whole hip. Now let the hips become heavy here now, okay? This is our last one in goddess pose. So can you really let the hips drop down a little bit here now, maybe swinging from side to side. So feeling a lovely opening here through the inner groin, the inner parts of the hips there. And in this position, we feel the back of the hips, maybe they're strengthening a little bit because, you know, we're using them to kind of contain or, you know, control the drop of the hips there now. Okay, pivot your feet around to the front of the mat and step that back leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high. And then exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, we'll take it into our next flow. And again, we're going to start with lifting our left leg so that our right leg stays forward. So inhale, lift the right leg up. And then exhale, bring it out to the side, reach. Bending that right knee if you need to. Inhale, reach it forward. And exhale back. So while you're doing this, check in with your spine and make sure that you haven't curled forward. So make sure that your spine is nice and long here. You know, the focus is the hips, but we don't want to compromise the other parts of the body as well through our practice. And then step that left leg back now, find your way into arrowhead. And then we're going to inhale, so listen carefully, we're going to ground that left foot now and sneak our way into reverse. So inhale, reach the right arm up and over. And then now this is a tricky transition, so we'll do it a few times. So we're coming into reverse, and then we're going to straighten the right knee, pivot the right foot around, and pivot the left foot around, and bend the left knee to make our way into skater pose, okay? So the whole upper body is kind of still staying, reaching towards the back of your mat. It's just that the legs, so have it kind of in your mind that pretend the top body is kind of stationary and the bottom body is the only thing that moves. So let's try that transition. Let's reach both arms back and then straighten left leg, straighten both legs, bend right leg, and then bring the left arm down onto the left thigh. And you can keep your left leg, your left hand down if you need that extra little bit of support as you pivot. Okay, we'll do that 2 more times. So I'm keeping my upper body kind of reaching to the back. I'm straightening both legs. I'm pivoting my right foot around. I'm pivoting my left foot around, bending the left leg and reaching the right arm over. I'm straightening my left leg, pivoting my left foot around, pivoting my right foot around, and bending my right leg. Okay, we'll do that 1 more time. Straighten the right leg, pivot the foot around, pivot left foot, bend left leg. Straighten left leg, pivot left foot, pivot right foot, bend right leg. Okay, and then inhale to come up. Make our way now to the front of our mat now. We'll come through a high lunge. So high lunge, right leg reaching forward. Inhale here. And then exhale, hands to that right knee and step that left leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high and exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, so second round, I will take it from the back of my mat now, so I don't have my back to you. So this time we're going to lift the right leg up. So hands to hips, remembering the length through the spine here now again. Inhale, lift that right leg up and exhale, reaching it back. Inhale, lifting forward and exhale, reaching it back. Last time, inhale, reaching it forward, lifting it and exhale, reaching it back, finding our way into our arrowhead for one breath. And then our inhale, grounding that right foot now, right arm to right leg. Inhale, lift that left arm up and over. So you're kind of finding your way into your reverse warrior. So now from reverse warrior with the left leg at the front of the mat, we're going to creep our way around to the back of the mat. And remembering that the upper body is kind of staying the way it is. It's reaching towards the back of the mat and it's going to stay like that. Okay, so let's journey through the legs. Basically, one leg is straightening and the other one is bending and they're swapping over. So let's start with the left leg. Left leg straightens, the foot pivots around, right foot pivots, and the right leg bends. Okay, and then you find a way into Parsvakonasana towards the back of the mat. Okay. Right leg straightens, the foot pivots around, left foot pivots, left leg straightens, and the upper body is staying nice and calm, and it's continuing to do pretty much what it's doing for the whole sequence. We'll do two more. Left leg straightens up onto the heel, pivot the foot around, right leg pivots, right knee bends. Right leg straightens, come up onto the ball, pivot the foot around, left leg or left foot pivots and left knee bends. And coming into your reverse. And sure, we'll do one more, seeing as we're doing well. Left leg straightens up onto the ball of the foot, pivot the foot around, ball of right foot, pivot the foot around, right knee bends. And then coming back around, right leg straightens, pivot the foot, left foot pivots, bend the left knee. Reach both arms up, hips to the front of your mat. Reach the arms up on your inhale. Exhale, both hands to the left knee and step that right leg forward. Inhale, reach the arms up high. And then exhale, hands down the midline in prayer position. Okay, so we'll get ready now. That's our 3 standing flows done. So hopefully your hips are feeling nice and fluid. And we're going to come down to the ground now. And we're going to come down through Malasana, which is one of the ultimate kind of, hip kind of opening poses. Inhale, reach the arms up high. And then let's bring the feet kind of nice and wide on your mat. So at least mat distance apart. And exhale, really gently coming down through your squat, your Malasana. Bring the hips down in between the knees, elbows in the insides of your knees there now. And let's take 1 or 2 breaths here. If this isn't a pose that suits you, then bring your hips down to the ground. And breathe and let the hips be the heaviest point of your body here now. And then bringing the hands behind your back there to bring you all the way down to the ground. Let's take 1 or 2 breaths in Bakasana. So soles of the feet together, press the soles of the feet together, and then reach those knees away from you. Any amount, okay? Any amount. They don't have to look like mine. I have my own different parts of my hips that have stiffness in them, and this is possibly one that I'm quite open in, but certainly with the forward fold, I won't be going forward. So again, taking your poses with non-judgment and non-comparison to the people around you. Using the grip on your ankles there to help tilt the pelvis, not quite forward, but I suppose the intention is forward because you want it to be stacked nicely. And letting yourself just settle into the next part of your practice. Moving into our restorative part of our practice, where we assimilate all the benefits of the movement. We work with the nervous system into a switched on movement to a switched off relaxation. Okay, and then just bringing the hands to the outside of the knees there, gently bring them up nice and slowly. And let's just hug into the midline. So hug the knees, bring your chin down towards your knees, curl your back, make yourself as small as possible. And then we'll get ready to come into our restorative practice. We're just going to take constructive rest and then we'll windscreen wipe the legs. So constructive rest is with your feet are mat distance apart and your knees are knocked in together. And then just gently bringing yourself down onto your mat. Hands facing up towards the ceiling. And just starting now to observe the breath and seeing, is there anything you can do with your breath to help settle the breath? So does that mean just the observation of the breath, or does it help you to extend your exhale a little bit, which is the magical part of the breath? It helps to tap into that all important parasympathetic rest and restore part of the nervous system. Bring the arms a little bit wider here, maybe bring the palms down onto the ground for stability. Bring the feet hip distance apart here, or just towards hip distance apart. And then just gently windscreen wipe the legs from side to side here. Just to get a little bit of movement in the hips there before we come into the stationary part of our practice. And just again as well, like this, it's a lovely little self massage to the back of the hips there, which is all those buttocks muscles and connective tissue that we've been working strongly with in our standing practice and the warm-up. So you did like lots of hip work today. Okay, and then coming up to seated, we'll get ourselves prepped for our first restorative pose. So what we're going to do is you're going to pop one blanket underneath your hips. We're lying into a twist. So take a 4-fold blanket and just pop that along the center of your mat there. Okay. Now I need a blanket at the top of my mat for my shoulder, and that will make sense to you in a minute. So pop a blanket to the left side at the top of your mat there, looking down at your mat. And then one more blanket. What we're going to do with this is we're going to roll it up. So take it into this kind of a size, which is I think probably about a 6-fold, and then you're going to roll it up just to get this kind of sized wedge. Okay, you're going to come down onto your back now, and we're going to get the legs ready. So what we want here is to pop this rolled blanket in between our thighs here. So you can have it any way that suits you. You can run it along the whole upper thigh there, or you can kind of run it in between the upper thigh and the lower leg there, the shin, or the not quite the shin, the lower leg. Okay, so just whatever feels nice to you, either along the upper thigh. What you're doing is you are supporting this hip. We are stretching out the top of this hip, or opening out the top of this hip. We don't want it to be too much of a stretch. So this lifts that leg up to take the intensity out of the stretch on that hip there. Gently coming down onto your left side there now, and reach your left arm forward. You're going to bring your right arm into cactus position, and this is where that blanket can come in handy for lots of people. You're going to open your arm out to the side, and we want that blanket just to sit underneath our right shoulder there if you need it, and you might not need it. It just, again, it lifts the shoulder up, so it takes a little bit of the intensity out of the twist. And then bring the right arm and the left arm into cactus position here. So feel that lovely twist through the whole waist there, all the abdominal organs getting a good bit of stimulation. And feel that lovely little bit of an opening on the top of that right hip there. And again, just it depends on what your hips are like. If you feel that actually you're not getting much of an opening there, you might need to take that rolled blanket away. So you can play around with that. I can certainly still feel a nice bit of opening through the top of that right hip there, even with the blanket rolled between my knees. So just remembering that this restorative practice is all about just kind of working deeply with the nervous system, making sure that you are very comfortable, that there's nothing that's there's no one particular part of the body that's shouting louder than the others. And of course, there will be focus points of the pose, but that should be a nice opening feeling and a gentle opening. This is what we're not looking for, really intense sensations or intense stretches in our restorative practice. So check in again, check with your shoulders, make sure cactus position suits your shoulder structure, and move and adjust if anything isn't suiting. Okay, and we're going to gently move over to the other side. So listen carefully and we'll just try and do it as energy efficiently as possible. So see, can you ground your feet down and lift the knees up and keep your prop in between your knees if you can. You might need to just step or walk your hips towards the center of your mat and then walk them over to the left side of your mat to give yourself space to then let the knees drop to the right side of your mat. So you're kind of shimmy your hips so that they can, when you roll over, the spine is still fairly centered towards the center of your yoga mat there. And then all we need to do now is lift the blanket that was under the right shoulder and then just pop it under the left, just the shoulder, not the head, the shoulder and the arm, but just that little bit of relief from the stretch if you need it. So feel free to play around with either not having that blanket there, and maybe even as a comparison, taking both blankets away, leaving the one underneath your hips for support, and just a little bit of padding. So now feel this sensation. Yes, we were in a lovely twist here. We feel it through the waist, but feel the sensation through the top of that left hip now. So we're getting a nice stretch to the skin and the muscles on the top of that left hip there. So it's almost like a kind of a chain reaction. When something is twisted and pulling one direction, it affects all the skin and muscles that surround the area that's been twisted. I come back to your breath again and see how that's feeling. Can you take some slightly deeper breaths and notice that deep breaths can be quite challenging when the whole respiratory system is in a twist and the belly can't expand quite as much as it's twisting. But that is where the benefits are to breathing deeply in a twist, because you're really expanding the capacity of your lungs by opening them up while they are in this twisted position. And just getting ready to come out of this pose now. So same thing, just ground both feet down if you can and really gently. So moving really gently now. The spine likes you to be very slow when it's taking it out of twists and back bends and forward bends. So move nice and slowly. Pop the blanket out to the side. Pop both blankets out to the side. So the one between the knees as well. Maybe let's just windscreen wipe the legs gently now, not all the way down to the ground, just like, just a little bit from side to side here. Feel the extra little bit of blanket underneath the back of your pelvis there again, nice and soft. And then getting ready to come up to a seated position again. So ground the forearms down to lift yourself up. Okay, so for the next one, we are going to take ourselves into the most obvious and always my favorite, most obvious for hips is the reclined Baddha Konasana. So we're going to leave the blanket underneath us there because that will give us a nice bit of padding while we're sitting down. And then you're going to bring, I'll take the bolster out of the way there. We're going to come to, we'll take a low one. We'll take a low one today. So you're going to take your brick to its medium height. So just a reminder, this is your highest height. This is your medium height, and this is your lowest height. So we want one on its medium height, and then the second one on its flattest height. Okay, so great adaptability in your bricks. And then pop your bolster on top. So the lower one gives you a deeper stretch through the front of the pelvis there and the inner groins, but it also feels a little bit more secure as you're lying down. So I'm going to leave this blanket here. I'm going to put that across the area that we are working with. If you want, you can use that as a pillow, but I want to work with placing it on. It's nice to kind of give a little nod of appreciation to the areas that you're working with a blanket, I find. So these two blankets, we are going to take them into rolls. So have it in this kind of a size. So this is a 4-fold, and then fold it one more time. And then I'm going to roll it up. So again, it's the end product is kind of more important than how many times your blanket is rolled, because everybody's blankets are different sizes. So this kind of a size, and then rolled up, and have them ready. So they are going to wedge in here, so at kind of a 45-degree angle underneath our thigh as we take our legs out into Baddha Konasana. So if you find your inner groins are quite tight, the more you wedge that blanket underneath your thigh and almost underneath your buttocks if you need to, it will support your inner groin as you come into your Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together. Let's lengthen up through the spine first, and then start to wedge those blankets underneath. You can adjust them again as we come down into our lying position. Have a little bit of space between the bolster and the back of your hips there so that you've room for your pelvis to tilt back. Press the soles of the feet together, hands either side of that bolster there, and then gently just guide your way back onto your bolster. So you want the whole center of your spine to come down evenly against your bolster. Okay, and then here's where you will know how much you need to kind of press those two rolled blankets underneath the thighs there. So the feet are pressing against each other, and that's kind of your brakes. And then this is helping to guide the amount, the intensity of the stretch through the inner groin there. And then what I'm going to do with my final blanket is kind of just drape it over the inner groin there. I can even wrap it around my back there and just kind of like keep it nice and cozy. Arms either side of the body. And just letting everything drop down into the support of all those props, bolsters, blankets, and mat that we've created. Now feel for your pelvis there. Again, this beautiful bony structure, like the big bowl, and it's such a hard one to kind of visualize from just a picture. It's something that is great to actually see in its skeletal form. It's incredibly intrinsically detailed, and each part, each rivet, each part of it has such an important function. So the bottom part of it's holding our femurs into their sockets, which is the hip joint, which we're working with today. So see, can you trace a line from the top of your knee there, the inner seam of your knee, and trace that line from the inner seam of your knee all the way down in towards your pelvic bowl. And it kind of sits into, or it flows into this amazing pelvic bowl and into that ball and socket that we've been talking about. So let's do them one at a time. So take in your mind's eye the inner seam at the crease of your knee on the left-hand side and run a line down the inner seam of that leg all the way to the ball and socket and to the pelvic bowl. And then to the right side, the inner seam of the right leg from the crease of the right knee, drawing a line of flowing water even from the knee all the way down the inner seam into the pelvic bowl, the ball and socket joint of the hip. And we're going to draw one more line now. I'm going to take it from the pelvic bowl all the way up through our spine to the tip of our crown. And then we're going to take all three starting points. So the crease of the left knee, crease of the right knee, tip of the crown, and draw a line. It can be made of honey, it can be water, it can be just a chalk line, whatever makes you feel more fluid in your movement, and draw these three lines going down into the pelvic bowl. And where they join is where your absolute essence lies. And I'm getting ready now to come out of this pose. And just for the last few minutes of our practice, we'll take Shavasana. So just before you even start to move, consider how you are going to, with as little energy as possible, come down into your Shavasana. So I will help guide you as well. So let's press our hands either side of the bolster to lift ourselves up as slowly as possible. Let's keep the blanket over our hips there. Push both your rolled blankets just underneath your knees there. So let's keep them to lift the knees up a little bit. And then all you need to do is gently push your bolster and your two bricks out of your way and come down to lying on your back, all the way down, and just notice the difference. It almost feels like you're lying at a diagonal when your body gets used to sitting in a very comfortable upright position. It feels almost like the head is below ground level now. So let's find a little bit of neutrality. Let's find symmetry and let's find that lovely natural curves of our spine here as we lie on the ground. Palms facing up towards the ceiling, even if they're underneath the blanket there. Let the feet just drop out to the sides. Let the body be held by the props, held by those two rolled blankets underneath, supported, that little bit of weight across the hips there, a little bit of warmth. The comfort of the weight of the blanket. Let the shoulders just drop down either side of your spine there, either side of your neck. Let your whole body just submit to these last few minutes of assimilating the practice and absorbing the benefits. Getting ready now to come back into your day, nice and slowly, no rush, getting a little bit of movement into your fingertips and your toes. Bending the knees up, maybe placing the soles of your feet on those two rolled blankets and pushing your feet into them. Lift the hips up, squeeze into the back of the hips there, and let the hips come down again. And rolling over to your right hand side. Lift yourself up to a seated position. Hands in prayer position at your heart. And we'll finish our practice with bringing the hands, thumbs to the third eye, to the lips, to the heart center, and namaste.